These are the days that define your greatness. Okay, it's not on the days where you're motivated and you're juiced up and you're getting all the results, you're getting the views, you're getting the money. Those aren't the times that define your greatness, that define, your discipline. These are the times where you don't feel like getting out of bed in the morning, the times where you don't feel like putting in that extra bit of work that you need to put in to get to where you want to go in life. Okay, this right here is the reason why I am where I am. Now, for me to sit here and tell you guys that I made all 500 plus of those videos off of sheer motivation would be a complete lie. I would be doing you guys a disservice, because probably 50 to 60% of those videos were made off of the power of discipline. Discipline is the key to success. Discipline is what separates the good from the great. Anybody can find the motivation to go to the gym for 2 weeks, but what happens when that motivation runs out? This is what separates the people who stick to their goals and the people who don't stick to their goals. Okay, when you have goals, when you have big dreams, you're gonna have to make a decision at some point in your life. You're gonna have to decide if you are willing to put in the work to get to where you wanna go. This is where discipline is going to have to take the place of motivation, because motivation will not always be there. I want you to think of your mind as a corporation. You are the CEO, you are in charge of employment. You decide who works for you. You decide who works for your mind. Motivation is the best worker that you have. The best worker by far. Motivation can get things done that you did not know were even possible. The problem is that he only shows up 10% of the time. The thing is, you can't fire motivation. You can't get rid of motivation because he's so good that he makes up for that 90% of the time that he's not there in that 10% of the time that he is there. But for that other 90% of the time, you have to find somebody to replace him. You have to find somebody to put in that work when he's not there. And that's where discipline comes into play. If you decide to employ discipline in your life, discipline will more than cover for the time that motivation is absent. And in times where they're both there working together, that's when you can achieve things that you did not know were possible. That's when you can do things, that's when you can make moves and put in certain levels of work that seemed out of the realm of possibility for you in the past. Because when they come together, discipline and motivation, you become an unstoppable force. And growing up, I always thought that killer instinct is something that you had to be born with. It's kind of like the whole alpha beta ideology. In that ideology, you don't become an alpha or a beta. You just are an alpha or a beta, and you make the most of your situation. You make the most of the tools that you were given, the mindset that you were given. And oddly enough, I found comfort in the idea that, I just didn't have it, because it served as a coping mechanism. It allowed me to settle for mediocrity. And, because of that, for the longest time, I settled on the normal path. Get good grades, go to college, get a good job. But at a certain point, I realized that that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to do something not better, something different. I'm dynamite. I'm here to blow up. I'm here to do crazy, spectacular things. And not everybody's going to like what I do. But that's where the killer instinct had to come in. That's where that fire had to come in. I had to learn to ignore what other people thought. And for an insecure kid like myself at the time, that was a very scary idea. I was very, very afraid of criticism, and I was petrified of the idea of failure. Okay, growing up, I shied away from competition whenever I could. Not because I didn't have what it took to win, but because the chance of failure meant much more to me than the chance of victory. Okay, I was afraid of losing, I was afraid of failure, because I was afraid of the way other people would perceive my failures. That's where fear of failure truly stems from. It stems from your fear of other people's perceptions of you. Okay, I lived through other people's perceptions of me. I was a side character in my own life. But, eventually, through different circumstances that I had to deal with in my life, I learned to develop that killer instinct. Killer instinct is what separates the men from the boys, the women from the girls. It's what separates the great from the average. But what is it? Okay, in my experience, what I've learned is that killer instinct is motivation mixed with confidence. When you mix confidence and motivation together, you light a fire that cannot be extinguished. You know, when somebody tells me that I can't do something, I make sure that I do it just to spite them. Literally, just to spite them. There's so many things in my life that I probably would have otherwise never accomplished if somebody didn't challenge me on that thing. I remember when I went to college, my very first day of college, I was in class. I think it was my English class. Yeah, it was my English class. First day of college. And we were doing icebreakers. And me and this girl got partnered up together. You know, I think she was sitting behind me. And she was like a year or two older than me. I was 18. She was probably like 19 or 20 at the time. And one of the questions on the board was, what do you want to do after college? Now, mind you, at the time, I knew I didn't want to work at a job. I just knew I wanted to make a lot of money. That was my plan at the time. I just knew I wanted to be rich. So I told her, I want to be rich. I'm going to be rich. And you know, I told her that and I genuinely meant it. But I can tell that she either thought that I was joking or she didn't believe that I could do it. That lit a fire in me. That's when I decided that, first of all, I'm different than the people that I'm in college with. You know, clearly I'm not on the same wavelength as these people. And I knew that because she did that, I was gonna make it happen. I was gonna get rich.